Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing abrupt climate change and things adjacent. As usual, tonight I'm going to be reading just various and sundry articles. Going to be moving about between a bunch of different things, trying to read some comments. I'm going to be trying to include a whole bunch of stuff in this video, and I don't know if I'm going to make it all. I'm going to delve into some politics. This is old news. French Environment Minister quits live on radio with anti-Macron broadside. This isn't old, but this is a few days ago, a couple days ago, Tuesday. This is from Tuesday the 28th. So that's not that long ago, 2 days ago. I don't know, the days go by so fast. I feel like I'm missing all kinds of info, all kinds of things I want to read. Often get pushed back to where they're not like breaking news or whatever. Nicolas Hulot says he is leaving government because the president is not doing enough to meet environmental goals. This man sounds very interesting. Nicolas Hulot, tell us more. Emmanuel Macron's climate commitment to make this planet great again has come under attack after his environment minister dramatically quit, saying the French president was not doing enough to meet environmental goals. Nicolas Hulot, a celebrity environmentalist and former TV presenter, announced on a radio breakfast show that he was leaving the government over an accumulation of disappointments with its measures to tackle climate change, defend biodiversity, and address other environmental threats. Hulot's departure is a major blow to Macron and calls into question the president's credibility on the environment, though he did not make environmental issues a major part of his election manifesto last year. He subsequently attempted to push them to the forefront as a symbol of progressive politics and to counter Donald Trump's decision to take the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. Hulot was one of the most popular ministers in government, told French radio the many steps taken by France and other nations to slow global warming and avert a collapse of biodiversity were inadequate. I don't want to create the illusion that we're facing up to it, he said. I can't lie to myself anymore. Bravo, Monsieur Hulot. Emmanuel Macron responded by claiming that his government had done more than any other on this subject, saying people must be patient. It's a fight that isn't won from one day to the next, Macron said. Hulot announced his departure after the government said it would relax hunting laws, a measure aimed at boosting Macron's appeal in rural areas. Of course they did, but seen by environmentalists as caving into the powerful hunting lobby. Also remember that France is relying quite heavily on nuclear power, and that is not going to bode well in the very near future. Under the changes, hunting licenses would be cheaper and more species could be shot, sparking outrage among campaigners for the protection of birds. Hulot said lobbies had too much power over the French government. Hulot's differences with the government had been exposed in recent months. He had been disappointed when the government backtracked on a target to reduce reliance on nuclear power to 50% of the country's energy mix by 2025. He had also sought a legal ban on the controversial weed killer glyphosate, but was overruled by the Agriculture Ministry, which preferred negotiating directly with farmers and industry. The government was taken by surprise by Hulot's announcement live on radio. Macron, who was beginning a visit to Denmark, was not informed beforehand. I'm going to link this below. I don't think I'm going to read much more, but this, this is happening all over the world. There are governments just outright not caring about the environment. There are some governments, paying mostly lip service and still doing terrible things because they must prop up the industrial economy. Some governments, a la China, seems to, they seem to be making these big, bold gestures to curb climate change or pollution, and yet it's hard for them to get out of the actual bind that they're in that if you actually fight climate change, your economy is not going to continue to work the way you want it to or thought it would. So yeah, what if we all just quit our jobs in disgust over climate change? That could probably be the best thing ever. However, that would lead to many problems. In other news, we have, so this is why, I just want to say, this is why I hound liberals sometimes, and why I not a huge fan of the left. That doesn't mean that I'm a fan of the right. So let me reiterate once again that I am not pro-Trump. I do not like Trump on so many levels. Let me count the ways. But the thing is that there are also forces just as dirty, manipulative, and in the pockets of evildoers. It's not just Trump. It's a lot of people, and a lot of those people are on the left. And one of those people is Chuck Schumer. Another person is Jerry Brown. These corporate Democrats that are basically rolling over for Trump, right? So you think that there's this resistance going on in government, and actually there's this big progressive kind of groundswell going on by new candidates that I really hope do get in there in the midterms and in 2020, so that actual progress can be made, actual reforms can be made. But they're not going to be made with the Pelosi's and the Feinsteins and the Clintons and the Schumers and all the corporate Democrats are just ready to sell you down the river. And Chuck Schumer, a sudden deal made by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on a set of judicial nominees has made Democrat activists livid. Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation hearing looming next week. Schumer reached an agreement late Tuesday with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to fast-track the confirmation of 15 Trump-nominated judicial picks. 7 federal district court judges were confirmed that day, and 8 were put on the docket for confirmation next week. A Senate Democrat aide says the majority of the nominees greenlit as part of this deal were uncontroversial anyways, and emphasizes that Schumer's efforts enabled Democrats to hit the campaign trail, giving red state Democrats a few extra days in their home states before coming back for Senator John McCain's memorial services this week. Yeah. Democrat activists aren't buying it, and many were concerned that this move showed weakness, especially going into the high-stakes Kavanaugh hearing, in which get ready for corporate Democrats to roll over on Kavanaugh confirmation in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to read any more of this, but you get the idea. So, if I say something that sounds like it's, anti-liberal, meaning in support of Trump, that's not actually how it goes. It's anti-liberal as in some people don't have your best interest in mind, and they could be people that you generally might line up with. There are this many items that Trump has done that I actually do agree with. That doesn't mean I'm pro-Trump. That doesn't mean I like Trump. He's a disaster in so many ways, and he's obviously sending us in the wrong direction at high speed. But I'll take the the very few silver linings where I can get them in this, hopefully, 4 years of Trump land. Moving on, a few comments. Imogen Gardner posted this very short little tidbit of an article. Peru has declared a 60-day health emergency in 2 provinces on its northern border, citing imminent danger to health and sanitation as a regional crisis sparked by thousands of Venezuelans fleeing economic collapse escalated on Tuesday. The decree, published in the government's official gazette, did not give more details on the risks, but health authorities have previously expressed concerns about the spread of diseases such as measles and malaria from migrants. Meanwhile, Brazil was sending armed forces to keep order near the Venezuelan border area. Whoa. In the state of Roraima? I don't know. There's a big old cricket on the floor. Hey, jump. The exodus of Venezuelans to other South American countries is building toward a crisis moment, comparable to events involving refugees in the Mediterranean, the United Nations said this week. Whoa. Yeah, it is actually unraveling there quite fast. They're trying to prop up the economy as best they can, but there are more and more people just leaving, getting out into other countries as well, and it's starting to descend into some kind of chaos. Another from Imogen: critical infrastructure disruption in Iraq on August 30th, 2018. Basra's health authority said on Wednesday that more than 17,000 people have been admitted to hospitals over illnesses contracted from polluted drinking water. There has been a surge in illnesses blamed on the lack of clean drinking water in the southern oil-rich province. Residents and politicians say it is a symptom of the breakdown in public services caused by corruption and years of neglect by the central government in Baghdad. And don't forget, there was a little thing called the Iraq War, which basically leveled that country, and they have not been able to recover. Over 17,000 patients have been admitted to local hospitals, 2,600 are suffering from diarrhea, and the rest are suffering from issues related to stomach pains. Basra's health ministry spokesman told The National, he said most people were treated and dispatched within hours. The quality of water in some areas is very poor. Some areas in the province do not have access to clean water. No one can drink the water, not even animals, Mr. Hashim said. He said the ministry conducted water tests which found evidence of chemicals, ruling out any bacterial infections. Walid Ketten, the head of Basra's provincial council, is warning of a catastrophic health crisis as hospitals in the province struggle to cope with the high number of patients. Not good. Moving on, this is from the Washington Post, August 29. As temperatures keep trending up, heat belt cities maneuver to stay livable. El Paso, the moon was still up and the sun hadn't risen as the Chapin High School football team took to the field on an early August Wednesday. The temperature would hit 100 a few hours later, but at 6 a.m. it was a cool 82 degrees at the Huskies as the Huskies started practice. It's happening all across the state, explained coach Rene Hernandez, with teams switching to pre-dawn hours to avoid afternoons that are markedly hotter than several decades ago. Hernandez rescheduled his preseason workout when he became Chapin's head coach in 2007. He is likely to do the same for the full season next year. Traditional after-school practices are just becoming too risky, he fears, and coaches are getting smarter about protecting players. Across the Southwest, people have long made accommodations to the heat, but climate change and urban development are forcing far more considerations. An increasing number of cities face extreme heat for much of the summer, with highs surpassing 100 and even 110 degrees for weeks at a time. Even in the final days of August, Phoenix is sweltering at 107 and San Antonio at 104. And I believe, Marcy, you said that schools were closed. Was it a day or two ago due to the heat? I'm not sure what state you're in, although I know you've told me, but I believe it's southeast. Hope I'm guessing right. Such relentless triple-digit temperatures, the equivalent danger of rising seas in many coastal communities, are straining power grids, buckling roads, grounding planes, and endangering lives. The Phoenix area reached a dubious record last year, at least 155 heat-related deaths. Whoa. How come I didn't hear that until now? Extreme heat is not just an inconvenience, said Kim Knowlton, Deputy Director of the Natural Resources Defense Council Science Center. It is killing people, and it's making people sick to a higher and higher degree. While a few people fear communities across the region to become unlivable by 2100, as various projections suggest, various projections suggest parts of the Middle East and Africa. Researchers and urban planners say local governments can't ignore the threat. The challenge is what to do. What's do indeed. Los Angeles, where the number of days of 95+ degree days is expected to triple by 2050, is among the municipal pioneers. 2013, it became the first major U.S. city to require new and remodeled homes to install what is called cool roofing, made from materials of lighter shades like white, pale gray, or tan. The mandate took effect in 2016, and officials say at least 18,000 homes across the LA basin are now topped with cool roofs. LA is way out in front, said George Van Wees, an environmental engineer at the University of Southern California, who calculates the temperatures in the basin would drop by up to 2 degrees Fahrenheit if all buildings and households adopted cool roofs. The city has also experimented with pavement treatments. Crews covered about a dozen streets in a milky coating, Cool Seal, as part of a pilot last summer to test the substance's ability to reduce extreme heat. The project found that the street's surface temperature dropped by up to 10 degrees, but Van Wees cautions that more research is needed. 10 degrees is a lot. Urbanization has been a dominant driver of regional warming in many of the heat-belt cities. Hondula said, in cities with some of the greatest growth, overnight temperatures have risen as much as 10 degrees over the past several decades. It's a much larger change than what we estimate the effect of global warming to be over that time period. Phoenix is already one of the hottest cities in the country, as well as one that is warming the fastest. 6 years ago, it received a grant from the nonprofit organization Cities of Service to tackle rooftops on city buildings. Volunteers helped paint white reflective coating on the targeted sites, and the results showed that it reduced air conditioning costs, energy use, and carbon emissions. Today, the coating is standard for any new city project. In the Chihuahuan Desert, El Paso remains somewhat protected by its 3,800-foot elevation, but even here the climate has shifted dramatically. A century ago, the city averaged about 6 days a year when temperatures soared past 100. Since 2010, it has averaged almost 26 days annually, and 44 days reached that mark this year. Numbers like that, those are a central focus of Nicole Ferrini's job as El Paso's Chief Resilience Officer, someone who is helping the city reshape its streetscapes and change how it operates to blunt the heat island effect. Not good. So I wanted to quickly cover this East Coast heat wave happening right now, August 29th. Schools forced to close early as East Coast slammed with late summer heat wave. This is from New York. Heat advisories were posted Wednesday along the Atlantic coast from Virginia to Maine. Some of the most dangerous temperatures near triple digits were in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. It felt well above 100 degrees on the tennis courts at the U.S. Open in Flushing Meadows, New York. The tournament announced a new heat policy allowing for 10-minute breaks between sets. In Quorum, New York, the heat turned deadly when an 11-year-old girl was pulled unconscious from a car parked in a driveway. Oh my God. By the time an ambulance got to the girl to the hospital, she was pronounced dead. The hot weather has become business as usual in Washington, D.C. A high of 94 degrees Wednesday meant the nation's capital has had 37 days above 90 degrees this summer. In Boston, where the high was a record 98 degrees, not only has this been the hottest August on record, it has a chance to be the hottest summer as well. Up and down the East Coast, stepping outside this week has meant finding any way to cool off. Temperatures in the 90s combined with high humidity are pushing the heat index past 100 throughout the region. The first day of school in Windham, Maine on Wednesday quickly became a very short day. As many schools across the state let out early, Maine was one of 7 states that cut school short due to the heat. There's only so much cooling that can happen with fans and things, so we really want to put student and staff's safety first, said Julie Kuchenberger, Scarborough Schools superintendent. There's a bit of breaking coming on Friday with temperatures in the high 70s, but then the mercury starts to climb back into the 90s again next week. One more heat wave for the East Coast. They've just gotten battered this summer. It is also quite warm again in Southern California. We saw 90s today. It's looking like it's going to kind of continue into this week. Moving on, I'm just going to kind of jump around a little more. I wanted to read 2 comments that I thought were quite good. These were actually from a few days ago. This first one is from Peter Lind. Whoever he was, who said in 2008 infamously that this sucker would go down, was ridiculed perhaps prematurely. Maybe what he should have said was, this sucker will go down. But no, even that's not quite right. How about this sucker is going down? Given that our luxury cruise ship, you know, the one with all-you-can-eat buffet, is positioned in the middle of the deep, lifeless ocean, no exaggeration that, when it becomes incontrovertibly apparent that the ship is indeed sinking and sinking fast, what, if anything, is the correct reaction for a passenger to make? Sink, swim, bitch, complain, blame someone else, cower, hide, ignore, deny? In the end, none of those responses matter in the least. The ship is still sinking, and no amount of wailing or apologizing or sidestepping is going to make any difference. As the waters rise, the options vanish. Once the dust has settled and the smoke is cleared, all those seemingly important details that we all argued over and fought about will shrivel into irrelevance. And then some prophetic poetry from the past will swirl into form, and a voice from beyond the grave will remark, nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. From Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley, 1818. It's all just a lot of landfill, but it sure was fun while it lasted. Another comment by Matthew Kramer. I routinely enjoy submitting commentary concerning the conspiracy theory known as climate change denial. However, I believe it is noteworthy to mention that we have had and still have Democratic politicians who pay lip service to climate change but do not actually push for changes that are needed, as evidenced all around us. They just want the votes. In addition, we have a large number of lefties and Democrats who only approach the issue from a political perspective. Their knowledge of the current science, along with their understanding of the complex nature of the predicament, is absent. I do not believe they realize how deeply dependent we are on fossil fuels and how infeasibly it would be to transition away from this dependence, and how it seems that the window for such an opportunity seems to have closed. That said, I support measures to mitigate the coming anguish. The root of our problem is overpopulation, and any solution which does not take this into account is inherently doomed to failure. It is obvious where we are heading. As far as climate is concerned, the last of the Arctic ice will melt at an exponential rate. Once that ice is gone, the planet will experience a runaway warming event. The only question is time frames and how quickly this warming will occur. Spot on, Matthew. And you know, any kind of mitigation, any kind of real mitigation or real answers has to account for the, not just a lessening of the population, but a lessening of our, what it is that we feel like we are entitled to have on this planet. And we really have, a real serious problem with wrapping our minds around that, like what it is we deserve to have, what it is that, might be included in a good life or a successful life or a life worth living. I don't think by any standards it should be necessarily one of austerity, or maybe not, it shouldn't be one of lack. We have plenty in this world, and it's just that our system is designed to have too much, way too much of everything, too many choices, too many conveniences, and we're taught that, to have some of these choices and conveniences is not enough. That right there is the big problem. The idea that you should be able to just fly anywhere you want, or go anywhere you want, or do anything you want, or eat anything you want, or buy anything you want, or have all the things that you want. All of those are actually destructive and false assumptions about how it is that humans should be living on this planet. Of course, if we only had a few million people, then, everything could be redistributed much differently. But, we're not there yet, and we're not going to be there. We're not going to go there willingly. So, to choose to deal with this problem on any level has to be to choose to say, less is going to have to be our future, needing, wanting, having less. And more importantly, so the rich, the powerful of the world are the ones that need the most convincing of this, and probably the least likely to willingly change anything about how it is we arrange our world. So I don't know, it is a conundrum. It is a predicament. It is a problem. But, how the answer is going to come about, whether it's politically or spiritually or some kind of awakening, or if it's just education, I don't know. I don't see it happening fast enough, but we'll see. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Hope to be back tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace.